Are you afraid of being criticized? Don't. Embrace it, absorb it, and use it to develop yourself within. How would you feel if I tell you that judgment and criticism can be one of your greatest strengths? Hello, my name is Timur, and I'm here to talk to you about the importance of being criticized and learning from it. Everyone in this room has certainly faced criticism at one point in his or her life. So I want to give you just a few seconds to reflect on it. What did you do with it? Ignored it? Just blocked it out entirely? Maybe tried protecting yourself by blaming everybody else? Or did you learn from it? This whole idea of learning from somewhere we never tried to do before might sound very contradicting to you and your brain. And it should. And it's just in human biology and nature to block negative information that is thrown into our direction. Our brain is wired this specific way, that it would ignore or excuse itself from accepting any responsibility for this action that we would have been criticized for. This is just a natural, primitive instinct that our brain uses to protect itself from harm. According to scientific research, when our brain receives threatening situations, our bodies begin to produce stress hormones that enter our brain that might modulate memories or stressful negative events. This hormone that our body releases is cortisol. Cortisol is released by our adrenal glands as a response to fear and stress. There are two types of stress: eustress, which is a good stress, and distress, which is a bad stress. Cortisol is released in both cases as a part of general adaptation syndrome. Once your brain receives negative thoughts, it sends a signal to your body to release the hormone to fight the stress, and your body becomes mobilized and ready to take action. But there has to be a physical release, some kind of an activity, or flight or fight. Otherwise, the hormone stocks up in our blood, which will wreak havoc in our body and mind if this is not handled properly. Living in the US while being a Russian brings one intensive challenge for me to overcome: the language barrier. The amount of times people would laugh at me at my pronunciation or inability to say some simple words such as receipt. At first, it was very frustrating and challenged my ability to make new friends or to try to talk to anyone not from my country. I had a fear of being criticized or judged by other fluent speakers. But over time, I started to understand and fight the fear of criticism. I went up to people and spoke in my broken English using my full potential, and every time someone would laugh, instead of shutting up, I spoke even more and asked them what I was saying wrong. With more laughter, I would receive an answer that I would listen to. And a year or so after, I have learned more than I've ever did in my 6 years of English class in Russia. Criticism is not your enemy. It is your friend if you can learn how to handle it correctly. One reason why criticism has such a negative effect on people, especially on younger ones, is that this is the problem with our social development, which I myself is a part of. The problem comes from us being raised in such a way where you're awarded for every single thing you do. So it builds up in our mind to only appreciate awards and does not teach us how to deal with stress. From a very young age, this mentality is forced into our brain. All the way from kindergarten, where you would get an award every week for being a funny kid in a class, a friendly kid in a class, the hardest working kid in a class, and etc. And this goes all the way up to the school and continues now in your life. This is the same way you would get an award or recognition for doing something normal as getting higher than average grades or cleaning a table after somebody else. These are things that you should do on a regular basis and without any recognitions. I once got recognized for helping a teacher carry a box. Like, are you serious? This is a problem, as when kids get to real life, they don't know how to handle stress and someone's actions that go against their belief, such as criticizing them, arguing with them, does not do what the kid asked them to do. I know it might sound rough, but that is the reality. And this reality right now is creating a weak generation of people who will not know how to handle negative thought and stress. This concept of accepting criticism and learning from it, by doing so, we'll be able to create a stronger society who will be much better able to react in stressful situations and learn how to use their stress in a positive for them way. And if you're scared to try, just think about this concept for a second. If you're not criticized in your society, you're invisible to your society. And do you know why? Because people who understand this concept, see people with potential to handle this pressure, will use it on them and help them to develop. Sounds ridiculous, right? But let's put it in a more relatable fashion. I'm certain that most of my audience here have participated in some kind of a sport with a coach in charge. the mean coach versus the soft coach. I'm pretty certain that most people in here had a better experience with a careless coach who allowed you to skip practices or procrastinate during the practice. He would compliment you in every game and tell you, good job, even if you did not try. Now the mean coach, the one who screamed at you for being late, forces you to run an extra lap for misbehaving, try to make you embarrassed as a tool to make you work harder next time you're in the game. Now just take a minute and think. Who cared more about you? Who saw potential in you and helped you to develop as a person? And if you still don't believe me that criticism is beneficial for you, here's another example of it in work. Bridgewater Associates is a global management investment firm that manages over $150 billion in assets. What makes this firm stand out is their full transparency policy, which basically means that no one should hold back, whether it's a CEO or just someone from the cleaning staff. Everybody is encouraged to comment and criticize others if he or she sees them doing something wrong to prevent future similar mistakes from occurring. The CEO of the company himself is a great example. Ray Dalio, who is 18th among most influential people in the world, according to Bloomberg, who got this position by hard work and interesting concept of transparency. Dalio started investing in small amounts at a young age, which allowed him to grow a little bit of money to open his first firm with two of his friends. The firm was growing, but the problems began to occur along the way, which Dalio kept ignoring due to his ego. Even though his friends have told him that he's being wrong and it's not working, it will not work anymore, Dalio did not want to listen as his ego has fully overtaken him. He fired his friends, and in a short matter of time, his firm collapsed. He was forced to beg his parents for money so he could pay for his family food. According to Dalio himself, all of this happened because of his ego that created the barrier that blocked criticism that could have saved his firm. However, Dalio did learn a huge lesson from this, and with his friend opened a Bridgewater with the main policy of full transparency between employees, including himself. Dalio's net worth now is over $18 billion, and according to him, it told you one subtle change in his brain that pressured his ego to stop blocking the flow of criticism that came from others. Do not be afraid of criticism. It is your friend. One more reason why criticism is your friend is that it creates the whole concept of competitive pressure or competitive network around you. It is basically an idea that by receiving pressure from others, it forces you to be competitive with them. And how we know competition is the force of innovation and greater productivity. Without competition, our world would stale. No new innovations and no good quality products. The same way that it would in humans would not allow us to, if we would not allow the competitive network to exist around us, our productivity and desire to do something great would go down because we would not just see the need in it. By implementing criticism in our lives, it allows us to receive it and become more competitive with others, as it is the best way to prove someone that they were wrong is to do an awesome job in it. So embrace it. It might be hard at the beginning, but at the end, it would bring you the great harvest. There are few ways to deal with criticism, and here is some. Evaluate if it is destructive or constructive criticism. Thank the person for being honest. Evaluate on what you just heard and if it's true, and never make excuses. According to some scientific research, after a while of hearing criticism, your brain will actually start to understand that it would benefit you in the long run. Your brain will start to rewire itself in a way that you will receive pleasure from being criticized. You'll seek it and you'll get addictive to it. As in your conscious mind, you know it has a positive effect on your life. Criticism is unavoidable. You can escape it and you should not try. In fact, if you're getting criticized, know that you're doing something meaningful in the society and something that can have an impact. So ask yourself one more time if you're afraid of being criticized. And let it be your last time you still fear it. Embrace it, absorb it, improve upon it. And once you start doing it, you'll see the personal growth within you on a scale you have never seen before. Thank you.